to mark this joyous evening or afternoon or morning from wherever you're joining. So once again, if you're joining us, my name is SIMRAN BALLANI, and I am honored to be a part of ECDF. And today we welcome each one of you. We are in complete celebration mode because we are in the third year, and we are so grateful to our leader, our mentor, our visionary, Dr. Vasavi. And now that we embark on this journey of next 2 days and talk about so many workshops, and we have panelists around the world, why don't we take a minute to see what the journey has been like? Because most of you who have been with us from day one, I see there are some new faces, and you are all joining us from across the different parts of the globe. So we want to take a few minutes and show you how we started all of it, and what's going on in the journey right now, and what is coming ahead. I was reminded this morning about a very nice quote. There is nothing more rewarding than giving back and making a difference in the lives of people and as a community. So thanks to Dr. Vasavi for inspiring us each day and making this circle bigger and bigger. So thank you very, very much. And let's look at her vision, which started many years back. All right, so as I said, it is ECDF's third anniversary celebration. So a big round of applause. You can unmute, and actually let's hear it if we were as if in a auditorium. Awesome, great. So congratulations to each and every single person who contributed towards the cause in one way or the other. And we are here today to mark the opening of our 2 days events, which will be today and tomorrow, both at the same timings. And these are going to be workshops, keynote speakers, and of course, very important, the awards. But before we move ahead, let's look at our journey. So our vision and mission is basically, which goes back and started and launched in 2019, and is an initiative of D.N. Acharya Foundation for Children and Women Welfare. What we endeavor is to build a cohesive environment for children in their early childhood years, so they grow up to be sensible, happy, and confident individuals. Early Childhood Development Forum family believes that it can be done only if all the stakeholders, the ones who are watching us for the first time or who have been following us, it is your chance to be the member and contribute. You know why I always emphasize on being a member is because when you're committed to something, it is kind of a gentle reminder to actually give back in terms of your time, in terms of your skills, or whatever way you can. And it's so nicely said, if you're planning for a year, sow rice. If you're planning for a decade, plant trees. If you're planning for a lifetime, educate people. And so rightly for a country like ours, which is developing, and with this pandemic, a lot of places have kind of slowed down. And I know Dr. Vasavi's vision of going into these remote locations and making sure no child is actually left behind. So DNAF and ECDF children welfare programs in some past years. I will just take you through this, but you can always log into our website to know more about each of these programs. So this is was done in 4 phases of 2019, community welfare programs in child-friendly Guwahati. This is again a part of that. And I was really nice, so happy to see this pre-corona glimpses of children empowerment, and they participating in these events, getting a chance to not only, we are not only concerned about the academics, but overall development also. And this was one special platform for Kids Carnival. And of course, in 2020, we did Nabaya Uddhav Sishu Shiksha Vikas Abhiyan, which was ECDF's pilot project. And again, you can read a lot about this, of how we were spreading the light of knowledge in this small area on 12th November 2020. Now let's see what all kind of places we reach. So there are some annual programs. I would rather say there are some monthly programs, because right now I can tell you Dr. Vasavi Acharya is planning next 3 months ahead of what all beautiful activities we educators are going to do. So we do have teacher training programs, global online conclaves, ECDF worldwide digital, Intel research paper reading, parenting summits, sphere of influence, one-day certificate programs, and ECDF webinars, and more. Now, the reach, though it says 25,000 earlier educators, but I'm sure there is a lot more if you look out of how the ED Clan magazine reaches to so many people with meaningful articles, tools, and also the contribution from different members. So this is some of the ways that ECDF supports its community development programs. And this is just a glimpse from talking about NEP to talking about parenting, talking about one-day programs, international programs, storytelling, and of course the global conclaves. And these are our zonal chapters and member presence: India, Australia, UAE, UK, Canada, New Zealand, Africa, Kenya, Bangladesh, Malaysia, and US. And this is one very beautiful thing. And when I was reading about this a while ago, I was so proud of adoption of a village in Assam under the ECDF umbrella. It is just swells my heart with pride, because here there is one village which is completely having no way for the children to get education. And because of pandemic, they have absolutely no way of going to schools or school starting. And ECDF has adopted this village in terms of making sure there is some online and offline education for these little ones. And this is like going in depth and making that meaningful difference that we talk about. And quality education, good health and well-being, gender equality, equity, and of course, climate action. So these are the plan of actions for that particular children and community empowerment project. And some glimpses of interaction with village children on this September 2021. And this is back in 2018, and where we had this in-person mega conference and Pinnacle Edu Awards. And I hope the next time we see you in another 3 months or 6 months, we see you personally in one of these venues now that everything is opening up. And here are the zonal chapter heads. That's me in the south, and then we have SMIRTI in the east, Smriti Agarwal in the west zone, Sonia Kuller in north, Mr. Ajit Balan in Mumbai, Dr. Catherine Murray in Australia, Sana Larik in UAE, Alice Ball in New Zealand, Azura in Malaysia, and Dr. Sue in UK. And then we, of course, have these all esteemed members who are taking care of NABA, their project team members. And a lot of them are, though just not only for NABA, but they make sure that ECD events are running well and fine. And now to welcome Dr. Vasavi Acharya, I have one very beautiful quote: "A great leader's courage to fulfill her vision comes from passion and not position." And she walks the talk every day. So Dr. Vasavi Acharya is an early childhood education expert, entrepreneur, social activist, mentor, child rights enthusiast, author, multi-awardee, ex-trainer, TISS Guwahati. And it's my honor to welcome Dr. Vasavi. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Simran. And thank you for the lovely, lovely introduction of ECDF. What we've been doing in the past 3 years, we've completed 3 years, and this journey has been amazing. And it has been amazing because of really amazing people who has joined us on the way, all including you and all the ECDF members, plus all our well-wishers, all those who have been part of our programs, right? So today, basically, this is a celebration, yet we would want, some kind of, because we always work for upgradation, we keep on upgrading ourselves. So we do not lose any opportunity where we get a chance to, go to the next level. So we came up with this anniversary celebration plans, and we thought that we would keep an edge ahead. which will have workshops, and then we'll have panel sessions, and we'll have our very esteemed keynote speaker, TOYIN, who would be joining us from Nigeria in a while. And then we'll have these, awards, which is a way to thank and, show the honor to all the early childhood educators who've been fighting this war of COVID, and yet they're going on. And, this is a lovely time. So today I will be speaking at the latest trends in early childhood education around the world. The first and foremost thing I would like to focus upon is, the trend of the society actually understanding the importance of early childhood education. So, initially when, if I take the scenario of India, early childhood education did not have that kind of a standing, in the sense that parents would always think formal education to be more important than the ECE part. But with the growing awareness of parents about the importance of early childhood education, how these are the most crucial and years and vital years of a child's life, and how it determines a child's future success, we see that ECE is taking up a good, curve ahead in terms of enrollments in early childhood schools, centers, and all of that, right? So while early childhood educators and psychologists have been talking about it a long time back, public awareness as well as laws in the around funding of early childhood education were lagging. But now we can see a lot of investment in ECE in the coming decades as states and nations realize the support of for children, which delivers a big reward down the track. One very eminent thing that we had noticed in NEP 2020, which has given a formal recognition to early childhood education sector, thereby formalizing ECE right from the start, which is 3 years. So this has been a very positive trend and a step forward. The second important thing I would be wanting to focus on is the increased assessment of young learners. So what happens generally, if we look from a parent's angle or from the viewpoint of a parent or an educator, we would think that, okay, when the child is a slow learner, they come into notice after they are 6+ or something. But now there has been a steady focus on the learning outcomes of children in their early years through systematic assessments. These assessments are completely non-competitive and play a huge role in understanding the gaps in learning, and thereby enabling facilitators and parents to work in collaboration towards bridging the gap. Assessment opens the doorway to early detection of learning or behavior difficulties, which in turn helps in early intervention, which is very, very crucial. And this trend of assessing young learners would help in mitigating the learning and many other gaps that may be created in the early years, and if not addressed early on, may take a bad turn for the child's future well-being. Another trend I would like to talk about is the focus on physical fitness. Due to the increased cases of child obesity, diabetes, increased stress levels, reclusive behavior of children who are now mostly online, in gadgets. These are all results of a sedentary lifestyle. And then, with the onset of the pandemic, life became all the more inside more than outside. So now there's an increased awareness of the importance of physical activities and outdoor learning activities. And I was, in talks with a group from China, where they have done lot of research on how to actually enable students and children to be more physically active, and they have come up with a real good research finding. So nowadays, all the curriculums that are planned are based on experiential learning, and the curriculums are framed with a more holistic approach than the conventional learning methods which used to be there, in the past years. So children engage in learning by doing, and they're motivated to involve themselves in inquiry-based learning through playway method, outdoor sports and games like running, treasure hunting, hopping, balancing activities. These are all into the curriculum now, and they really help in the enhancement of sensomotor skills of children right from the start, and also help them in keeping physically fit and healthy. Another interesting trend that has come up mostly after the COVID scenario is the technology in education. So it is an ongoing trend in ECE, as it is pretty much in every industry. So it's a constant balance for early childhood experts to decide how to teach with technology while also teaching digital resilience, as they know children are likely to interact with devices even at home. Well, technology in classroom involves the intentional and proper use of technology for learning. Not only is this movement of getting technology into the learning learning scenario has been cutting costs for textbooks and other classroom materials. It also allows for greater access to a wider range of online educational tools for students. By allowing more access to such early childhood education through technology, we are also preparing our children for technologically advanced society. So blended learning or hybrid learning is slowly taking a front seat, and it's here to stay. But we have here a few questions to ponder upon. What role should technology play in our classrooms? What should we teach to our students about using technology? How much screen time should we allow, and what kind of screen time are we talking about? We have the good screen time and the bad screen time as well. So technology has to be used with full understanding and only for enhancing learning in the early years. So, and the last, but not the least, I would be talking about this trend, which is educating with nature. So there's a lot of, curriculum that has been developed, and everybody is understanding the importance of nature education and use of nature because environment is our third teacher after the parents and the educators. Environment is our third teacher. So when we talk about the forest schools of Scandinavia, that was an approach which came up in Scandinavia. And then we talk about the movement of the farm schools. They are really impacting the early childhood education settings, because we always think it a blessing to bring sunlight, greenery, fresh air, trees, pebbles into our regular school day, right? So I would say that this trend is not more of a surface thing of appreciation of nature, but these kind of spaces are great sandpits for development. Children learn about natural environment, they develop fine motor, gross motor skills, they build a connection with their local ecosystem, and they become more nature conscious. So I feel this trend of integrating nature-based learning is a welcome trend in the domain of ECCE. And with these 5 trends, which I feel are, the latest trends in the ECCE around the world, I would like to wind up my speech here, and I welcome everyone today to our 3rd anniversary celebration. And I hope these 2 days are great learning days for you. And also, I had congratulate all the winners today before we come up to the announcements of the winners. But it's been a great 3 years, and thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vasavi, and thanks a lot for sharing the trends around the world. I really like you talking about children in the natural environment, and that will be much like a cause that we need to come back to today, because they have been inside their homes for such a long time. So thank you for sharing that research. So moving along, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, who will be talking to us about early childhood development, a critical investment. Joining us from Nigeria, a global education influencer, TOYIN AWOFESO has been listed as 100 Admire People in Education 2021 by Excellent Education Magazine USA. After 15 years of teaching experience and attending various seminars, workshops around the globe, TOYIN is now into education consultancy, teacher-parent development, and supporting schools for better delivery. Her role at developing and training other teachers in education technology, 21st century skills, and in Montessori education is noteworthy. Well, a very warm welcome, TOYIN. Thank you for giving us your time, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, good day to you all. I consider it a great honor to be invited as the keynote speaker at this international event. the ECDF Pinnacle Education Awards and Conference 2021. My sincere appreciation goes to the visionary, Dr. Vasavi Acharya, the founder and chairperson, ECDF and Child Education Development Research Center. Thank you for this platform where we could all come together to project the way forward for early childhood development in the new digital world and as we look beyond. The title of my speech is Early Childhood Development, a Critical Investment. Critical in the context of this topic means of the greatest importance. And I ask, what kind of a venture would you invest in? I'm sure it's that venture that will bring the most profit, right? But would you invest in a venture and never look back? In reality, that is what most of us do with raising our children. My slides not moving, but I'll just continue with the speech. In reality, that is what most of us do with raising our children. You plan with your partner to have a baby, though some of us get in the family way by accident. That notwithstanding, the baby arrives, and we hope that nature and luck will see the child through his or her growth and development. That is a neglected investment. Child rearing and development cannot be left to the vagaries of chance elements. It is deliberate enterprise and undertaking. At this conference, we want a paradigm shift so that everyone can know and understand that early childhood development is a critical investment that will yield us great benefits in the future, more than any other investment that you could think of, if we invest every resource in it. These children will take charge of all the affairs of the world when they are of age, but the seeds are sown and nurtured today. Early childhood is that critical stage in a child's life when he or she is completely dependent on his or her parents, guardians, or what Lev Vygotsky calls the more knowledgeable other. Early childhood could be termed the ages between 0 and 5 years. Those are the foundation years for what the future holds. In fact, we could to a large extent tell what a child's future will look like from the kind of foundation that we are giving the child now. Maria Montessori says, and I quote, "Early childhood education is the key to the betterment of society. If help and salvation are to come, they can only come from the children, for the children are the makers of men. The greatest development is achieved during the first years of life, and therefore it is then that the greatest care should be taken." End of quote. In other words, every man, every woman in the world today is a product of his or her foundational experiences. Early childhood development does not start and stop at the gates of our schools. It starts long before our children get to school. Parenting of children of today must be more intentional than ever because these children know much more than we imagine they know so early. Do not ever forget that they are born into the age of information and technology. The reason Preschool refers to them as digital natives, and we, their parents and adults in their lives, as digital immigrants. We are always trying to catch up with them. So to all of us at this conference, my 2 cents below. First, we must be fully involved in our children's development right from day one. I need us to know that the neural network of the brain mass that will serve the child through his lifetime is being formed in the early years. Today, neuroscience is providing us a succor with the information on the plasticity of the brain. But I will add that the plasticity will be on the density of the neural network developed as a child. If you observe your child's development very closely, within his or early years of development, you can begin to pick areas of strength and weakness and help him or her to acquire all the necessary skill sets in preparation for school. Another important point that I would love us to pay close attention to, most especially in today's world, is the emotional health of our children. If we get that right, the man or woman emanating from that child can hardly be broken or damaged. I'm sure we're familiar with the concept of serve and return. Babies and young children, they crave emotional attention, just like you and I. Once they reach out to you and you are not giving them the expected or solicited attention, they switch off. And a part of their brain is being affected by the emotional neglect they have received from you. A child between ages 0 to 3 wants to be spoken with, not at. Please do take note of that. Our babies, toddlers, preschoolers want to be active participants in their world. They love to have a conversation with us. Please indulge them. This gives them a solid foundation to anchor every other domain of development. Next, let us take charge of our biases. We cannot continue to raise today's children with the same templates used by our parents. What the world of today demands of our children is completely different from the world we were raised in. Or I ask, were you raised in the world of artificial intelligence, IoT or IoB, smart nappy, smart homes? No. Then we should not allow our babies to get, or our biases rather, to get in our way of raising a total child with all the competencies to live happily in his or her world. This should be our collective goal. For example, recently I was thinking about my children and the milestones of development that they have successfully scaled. And I realized how the power of communication and reasoning have earned them easy access to places and great opportunities in their young experience at life. I implore our parents and educators here today that you give every child that power of good and effective communication and reasoning. They never fail the carrier or owner of such great skills. Some children are naturally gifted. Please, I beg of you, do not silence them. Majority of them need our help to acquire those skills. Remember the much talk about 21st century skills, the 4 C's of communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. To all our parents, you should please equip yourself, just like we're doing now, with all the necessary skills to support your child in the world of COVID-19. When all learning is transitioning virtual or hybrid, the educators, the schools, and the policymakers can no longer do it alone without our support. Part of the reasons ECDF has put this conference together for that paradigm to shift for each and every one of us. To our educators, nothing should give us more joy than to see every child succeed in our care. I need us to note that there is that difference between being a teacher and being an educator. A teacher delivers his content and that's all, but an educator does much more. He or she aspires to raise a smart and a happy child. This is also calling on governments of the day and education policy makers to make a huge budget resolution that includes a critical investment in childhood education. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought to the fore how childcare and childhood education is important for both a thriving economy and families' economic security. A research that was done by Heckman recorded 13% ROI for the birth to 5 programs. It says that high quality early childhood education provides a higher rate of return than preschool alone. And what is this telling us? Start right from the beginning. The ages between 0 and 3 is really very important in the lives of these children. I will end my address with the Senator Ed McKay's quote, which says, although children are only 24% of the population, they are 100% of our future. So we cannot afford to provide any child with a substandard education. End of quote. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, TOYIN, for your time, for this lovely address, for throwing light on such important topics, giving us once again a difference between a teacher and an educator. I really liked your point where you said that the small child needs to be talked to, not talk at. And sometimes when we shut them off, we stop that part of their brain development. So thank you so much, TOYIN, once again, being with us, being our keynote speaker on such a special occasion. We thank you for your time. Thanks a lot. And moving on, we have a very, very interesting panel discussion. And the topic is my favorite and most of yours also, preschool in a box. We have panelists like Wendy White, who is the founder of My Mood Stars, play-based learning expert from UK. We have Shilpa Potnis, who is the ECCE curriculum planner, teacher trainer. We have Amrit Nagpal from Birla Open Minds, head of preschools and ECCED, member of ECDF. And we have TIJAY GUPTA, co-founder and COO at Bachpan Play School and Academic Heights group of schools. And today, leading them to a meaningful discussion, moderating is SMIRTI AGARWAL, who is ECDF Zonal Head West, Pre-Primary Content Lead, AMPERSAND Group, and the floor is yours, Preeti, and I welcome each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Simran. It's a pleasure to be a part of the 3rd anniversary celebration of ECDF. Thank you, Dr. Vasavi Acharya, for putting together all of us, bringing us all of us together on a common platform. And I am so happy to be moderating a panel with such esteemed panelists. And of course, a discussion on a very important topic. We'll begin with these esteemed panelists. Because when we last year, when we heard of preschools going online, it was a shock for all the early childhood educators. And it was like, how can preschool be online? Because that is necessarily hands-on experience and experiential learning, and children need the teacher and social emotional learning. This is all preschool is made up of. And then it was a need of the hour to go online. Now, after that, we went ahead a step more and to find a solution to all the problems that, again, when we did online education, we understood that we're giving worksheets to the parents and they have to print it, and they were facing problems, and then there were resources, and there were a lot of other issues of how to complete, because you see, preschool education can never be complete without its resources. Children need those toys, they need material, they need worksheets, they need a lot of things to actually implement what they are learning. So the teacher was on screen, but then again, this posed a problem. So as many problems are there, so are the solutions. And necessity is absolutely the mother of all inventions. And then we came up with preschool in a box. Now, the solution came in recently, and after that, there was a lot of people following it up. And we also now, sorry, but if you're hurting sentiments, but we have a brand also called Preschool in a Box, but it is necessarily a term that we are referring to. And we would like our esteemed panelists to throw some light on this today. So my common question to all the panelists together here, and they'll share their thoughts in the order of Ms. Amrit going first, and then Mr. TIJAY, then Ms. Wendy, and then Ms. Shilpa. And that is how the questions would flow. And for 2 minutes, you have the time to just answer the common question which goes to each one of you. And then the flow of the panel would be that after that, your individual questions would be there, for which you have 4 minutes each. Please do not exceed the time because we're very, very short on time and we like to keep up with it. And then we have the most awaited awards coming up. So let's be on time. So the common question to all of you is, can you please share your thoughts that when as an early childhood educator, you heard of the term preschool in a box? What did you feel like? Do you think preschool can be in a box? Or do you think these solutions are here to stay? Or are these only because schools closed due to pandemic and these are very temporary? Because we see a lot of homeschooling gaining a lot of footage and a lot of ground. So do you think this preschool in a box is here to stay or is it temporary? What do you say? Go with Ms. Amrit first.
Hello, everyone. I hope I'm audible to everybody. Thank you, Smriti, for the question. So as an early years educator, firstly, when I heard about preschool in a box, I read it for the first time during the first lockdown, and it was one of the leading newspapers in India who had the title, "Where is your preschool? ? At your door in a box." And it definitely was like, oh my God, what is this? This is something new that has come up, and what are we headed to? What is ahead with all the educationists in India or around the globe? Can preschool actually be in a box? Are we limiting our thinking, or is it time to be having an open mind? You know, the clock strikes both sides. You know, it ticks both ways. You know, you are like, oh no, you know, what should you do? Should you have an open mind? Should you not have an open mind? Preschool in a box seems to have a good idea. It's very convenient, very adult driven. Okay, everything is at my doorstep. Parents are very happy having that kind of a solution because it's convenient. Let's agree. It's super convenient. You can get groceries at your doorstep. You can get flowers, furniture. I mean, you name it in this country. We have apps for everything. We've got apps for household helps. You call them during a festival, everybody is at your doorstep. So why not preschool, right? So that's the common thing that most parents think. What's wrong with education coming at your doorstep? But convenience, number one, superb. But when we come to think about whether it is child-driven or not, that is something that we really have to think about it. You know, it's more or less adult convenient. It's not a bad idea. It's a great idea. But at the same time, parents really need to think outside the box and think, am I doing the right thing or not? I will leave the conversation right here and I'll pass on the baton to somebody else. And in the second round, I'm going to be telling you a different version of this thought.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Amrit. So going over to Mr. TIJAY. Mr. TIJAY runs free schools, and let's see what does he have to say. What does he take preschool in a box as?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Smriti. Thank you, Dr. Vasavi, ECDF. Great work you're doing. And I don't know how you got this topic because I've attended more than 200 conferences last year. Everybody's talking about NEP or something else. So look, I won't take much time because Smriti has already put up a gun on us about 2 minutes and 4 minutes. So in fact, we introduced preschool in a box last year. We sold approximately 10,000 kits for that. I think it was a great idea, not in the sense of business, but of course, something is better than nothing. Kids were at home, not willing to attend their classes. So if there is something activity-based, something which is interactive, that would help. Going back to Amrit ma'am's answer, was it parent-friendly? Was it being done by kids? To check the efficiency, we called each and every parent, and 30 to 40% of them said yes. 50-60% part is being done by the kid or being useful, but yes, for 10-15-20%, parents have to help them out. So I don't think it would be a bad idea to take it other pipe for the future. I don't think it would work well in future because of course parents are willing for physical schools to open. Some state we have opened last month, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, and parents are not looking for the kid. They are looking for the practical teacher. Earlier teacher was Zoom. Now they can see one face to face. So I think I'll leave it here and save some 30-40 seconds for somebody else to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. TIJAY. We go on to Miss Wendy White from UK. Miss White, do you have something called a preschool in a box in your country? Miss Wendy, are you there?
She's
Hello?
muted.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, Miss White, we can hear you now. Please, go ahead.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm Wendy White and I'm here in the UK at the moment. When I first heard of preschool in a box, I imagined a big cardboard box in a nursery full of toys. That's what I thought it was. I imagined a box full of resources that the children could choose. I didn't actually get the idea that it was called preschool in a box because it was remote. So that's something that I learned. Do I think it's a good thing? No, I don't. I am open to new ideas, but I think that the preschool children definitely need to have that interaction, that touch, the smell of their teacher, the body language of their teacher. And I have seen one of my nieces go up to the screen and try and kiss her teacher because she missed her. So I think that it's very important to have that social interaction. Now, I think that some of the lessons and storytelling and involving the children and involving group discussion within the children, it is a good thing. It's like circle time in a school. And I don't think that that's a bad thing to project onto a Zoom, onto a screen. But going forward, whether it should be a permanent thing, no, definitely not. And I don't think that many parents enjoyed homeschooling. They're busy. They don't have the time. They didn't want to do it. They want to interact with their children when they want to interact with their children. They don't like to feel forced. Right now, you have to go and print this out. Go and print this out. I think it built up a lot of resentment. Actually, I think that parents want to be. They love their children and they want to be involved with their children. But I don't think they like to be given a timetable.
Thank you so much, Ms. White, for sharing that. Absolutely, that was another point of view. Now we go on to Ms. Shilpa Potnas to see what does she think of preschool in a box. Ms. Shilpa.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And thank you so much, ECDF, for inviting me on this occasion and the topic. It's a great topic. And I agree with Ms. Wendy about even visualizing a cartoon sitting right in the center of a classroom, and that's the box where all the magic happens. So that is the concept of a preschool box for me too. However, in the current context, when I'm talking of preschool in a box, as a concept, it has been curated beautifully, creatively over the last 2 years by companies who got into it, by early year educators who worked really hard on creating the concept, whether it was a physical box with all the equipment, all the material in it, or it was that tiny little box on our screen with the app where the children could get into and talk about a lot of things. However, as an early years educator, there were two aspects that really bother me, which all of us have. Amrit has spoken about it, Miss Wendy has spoken about it. So there are two things. One was, though the content is beautifully curated, I've got an opportunity to go through some of these boxes. Yes, developmentally appropriated, we had considered the pedagogies, we've done all of that, but the missing link is the implementation aspect. So are we all, it requires, we all are educators, early years educators, we agree that it requires certain skill set to implement in the right way. And there, for me, that is the gap. The content is beautiful, implementation is an issue for me. And from parents, yes, it has been a big thing on them to implement it in the right spirit. And the second aspect, as an early years educator, again, we all talk of holistic development. Now, this box, preschool in a box, is it really catering to that holistic development? Yes, it caters to a lot of cognitive skills, a lot of other skills. But what happens to is a question that I ask myself often, the SEL, the socio-emotional learning here. Yes, we can argue. There are people who have told me, oh, we give worksheets where we are asking the children to color the happy face, cross out the sad face. But is that really socio-emotional as development that we're talking of? So for me, that is a big concern. The question, Smriti, you said was, is it here to stay? Is it a solution? For me, it's not a solution, definitely not. Though it has been a huge support to the parents during this pandemic, definitely, but it cannot be a solution. It cannot be either or. There's no question about that. Looks like it will be around for some time, even after the physical schools reopen, but it will be with its limited scope as an add-on. It will not be the solution, definitely not. And with that, I rest my case. We have many more things to talk about, and we're really excited to talk more on that topic.
Right.
So thank you. That are my thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Shilpa. Yes, of course, as an early childhood educator myself for the past 26 years, I have been adapting and revolutionizing the early childhood education space over the years. And with time, I have been adapting myself. And in fact, when we were in the physical school, I would have, as a school head, I have been holding workshops where we used to tell parents to limit the screen time. And also that parents should not be too ambitious and do too many things with the child at home, because then they find the school boring. So please keep the pace with the school and just do as much, and do not be the teachers at home and things like that. And now see, the flip is that the screen has become the teacher and parents have become the teachers. So here we are. So that is how the world has changed. Now, diving into my first question, which goes to Ms. Amrit. Ms. Samrit, many companies, as you said, the leading newspaper had this big title there, and there have been many companies who've been following suit, and they have boxes, and very reputed preschools have come up with curriculum and activity kits for parents to keep learning going at home because they had no choice. As an educator, according to you, what can be the pros and cons of this new age solution? Like something that you've already said, that it is very adult driven and not child driven. What, according to you, are the more pros and cons for this?
So, like I've already mentioned the pros in my first question, like it is at your doorstep, it's highly convenient, it's more adult driven, and that's what we need to really realize. The 80s, the 90s has seen a teacher driven curriculum. For me, the preschool box is an adult driven curriculum. The only changes over here is the adult is either or your parent, could be the mother or could be the father. So this could be a pro as well as a con, because most of our Indian curriculums are adult driven. Yes, we're trying to move towards a more child-centered curriculum. The child is the focus of it. Having said that, like Ms. Shilpa said, is the implementation is a bigger concern. SEL skills, for sure, they aren't happening. Yes, interactions are happening, but what about your other SEL skills? How do you tap into the child's emotions? We talk about brain development, and we all know that in the early years is where, there's rapid brain development happening, rapid synaptic connections happening. And for these synaptic connections to happen, we can't wait for a box to open up and all the magic goodies to come out and then interact. Interactions need to happen every day, every opportunity they find in the environment. So for me, there is hardly any interaction happening over here, because only once the box opens, the parent or the caregiver is interacting with the child. But ideally, in a preschool setup, interactions happen all the time. The teacher is talking about a particular concept, and the child was like, even my grandmother has this, my father has a red car, or my grandmother wears a red sari. And the concept, that the child is making associations to different things in the environment. And that is what is important. And that's how we understand that learning is happening, because learning is ongoing for the child. Also, what happens with the box is that the parent could use it as his or her own convenience. But when the child is in a school, whether the school is now the online school, there is a set routine. There is a schedule. The child has to get up at a certain time. The child has to log in at a certain time. It's not a convenient class. It's the child is put into a routine. When children are put into a routine, they have a proper wake up time. They have a proper sleep time. They have a proper break time, food time, lunch time, dinner time. And that really matters a lot. Because, when we talk about parents usually have these complaints, mera bacha to sota hi nahi hai, but that is because you're not putting the child into a proper schedule, and the child wants a schedule. The schedule will only come when the child is in an online platform, on an online school where the teacher is interacting face to face. I've seen so many classes happening online. One thing that I have observed as a common thing across all classes is that children wait till the end of the class just to interact with the teacher and tell her, today is so-and-so's birthday, today I did this, today I did that, mommy made this, my daddy made that. And that is important. That is what we are talking about. These are the connections that we're talking about. They cannot happen in a preschool box. So you need to have connections. And moreover, parents are bored. They're angry and frustrated and stressed out with their own work. We don't want the stress to come out on the children, right? We want them to contain all these emotions and feel safe and make the children feel safe. So for me, at the end, I would just like to say something is that preschool in a box is a great idea. But what we really need to think about is it supported by a face-to-face conversation with the teacher or not? Or because over here, parents are not qualified early childhood educators. They're just parents, and it needs to be supported not only with a fantastic curriculum framework that has the ideas of holistic development and the head and the heart and the hand, but they also need to be supported with a qualified educator who's not only experienced but qualified. That is the key here. And that is what we need to keep in mind when we are trying to opt for the right preschool in the box. So that's up to us to decide which one do we need to opt for. Something that is giving us a blend of the pre-recorded as well as the face-to-face interaction along with a set of activities, that would be the right choice. So I would rest my case here, Smriti. Thank you for this question.
Thank you so much, Ms. Amrit. That was so well explained. Yes, of course, the right blend. Let's go to Mr. TIJAY and see how well he managed that right blend. So, Mr. TIJAY, the next question comes to you. How did your schools and you cope up with the online schooling and resources reaching the parents for continuous learning by the toddlers and preschoolers? Did you have your activity and curriculum kits given to the parents like you had just mentioned? I think you had. And were there any printing of worksheets and activity sheets there at home? Or what preparations do you have to do for the same, for them to receive these kits? Another question would be, what would be your agenda now that the schools are reopening? So would you continue to give these kinds of activities to engage children at home? Would it be hybrid learning, or what will be the modus of operandi?
Right. So on the very first week of lockdown, probably 3rd or 4th April last year, we came up with our own app. The app contains the curriculum, the worksheet, the activities, each and everything. Of course, it started slowly, but within 15, 20 days, 30 days, it picked up. Initially, there were a lot of problems with the parents because everybody knows there were no devices, there were no resources at that time. And frankly speaking, first lockdown, first 2-3 months was a vacation time for everybody. So more than the education, we keep sharing what is a new dish everybody's making out. So at that time, things were different. But suddenly after 3 months, 4 months, nothing's changed, and app started doing its work. Now, as of now, last May, April, in fact, this year, April, May, we have close to 70% of the parents now which are using app. The kit are being physically delivered to their home through courier by the company directly, not through the franchise centers because schools are not opening. So we are sending it directly at their home. Worksheet, as you are asking, can be printed if they have a printer at home. Otherwise, kit is going to them. They can use that worksheet because a printed copy is anyway given to them. So all the options were given within the kit itself. And I don't find 70-75% parents facing this kind of problem. Again, I'll come to the last question, Smriti ji. I was saying like something is better than nothing. I'm not saying, or I'm not favoring that preschool in our boxes. Of course, everybody knows the child needs environment, air, his teacher, his friend, everybody knows it. But if you're sitting idle at home and rather than you spending 1.5 hours on any app or the physical worksheet, that would be great. Now, second part of this question, yes, physical schools are opening. We have opened quite a few centers now. All the schools are taking due safety protocol. But again, we are not very sure. 50-60% parents are sending their kids, 30-40% still are waiting for vaccination to happen. It might take 3 months, 6 months. I think by March itself or by April itself, we'll be able to have 100% of attendance in our school. But these last 2 months are great. Those schools which struggle to get 70-80% occupancy have got this number within just 15-20 days. So I'll give it a word that revenge schooling is happening, as revenge traveling was going to happen, revenge everything. So revenge schooling is happening. Mothers are bound to send their kids to school. So I think schools are prepared. Earlier, we were also taking care of kids. So there's nothing new. All of us are educators and know how to take care of our school. So I don't find it difficult for any educator to manage a school, to manage a safety standard. And I think the time to come would be a great one for all the educators. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. TIJAY. So now we come to Ms. Wendy White and Ms. Shilpa Botnas can also chip in, because these two things are very interrelated. Apps, like Mr. TIJAY just mentioned, that their school had an application-based education for the parents. The app could be downloaded and it helped in the continuity of learning for the children. So same way now, when we say that learning apps for children are gaining that momentum, how do we ensure restricted screen time when parents download these apps for convenience, and then the children are hooked on to the activities not only of the school, the one provided by the school, but even otherwise for other activities and games and etc. And for Ms. Shilpa Botnas also, the question was a similar kind of, that the parents' point of view. Do you think these solutions are helping parents, or is there another peer pressure of choosing the right app, putting the children to the right school, which online school is better, which app is better, where does your child go, should I download this app or that app? There's so many things, so many choices. But according to you, are they trained enough to understand and do the right thing which would benefit the children? So Ms. Wendy White first, please. Ms. White? You have to unmute yourself. Yay.
Okay.
Right.
All this technology, you see. Okay, apps. Yeah, I mean, some of the apps are really good and really clever. And the school apps are scheduled and they're timely, and I think that it helps children to get into that frame of mind, because the kids love playing on their iPhones and their apps. So I think in this day and age, it's a good thing. What I was surprised to learn yesterday is when I was looking after my nieces, and my brother said, "Don't let Matilda play too long on the iPad." I said, "Oh, fair enough." But I sat with her and we played on the iPad together, and I was amazed at her cognitive development and her logic and her understanding on some of the games that she was playing. And I said, how did you know that if you move the cat here, his trouser leg would come up and then reveal that this? And it's amazing. So for cognitive development, I think that apps and games are very good. I don't like them spending 3 hours on Netflix watching SpongeBob SquarePants. No way. but for some of the games that they're playing, the skill and the intelligence that they need are really good. What also bothers me, though, about too much time on the iPads is, where is their emotional development coming in? Where's their social and personal development coming in? I took Matilda off the iPad and we played a clapping game and we played some skipping games and we went outside. But that little girl was so keen to get back to her iPad that I could almost see the addiction. And I said to her, how do you react when mummy or daddy say, that's it, Matilda, time to stop? And she says that if she's going to dinner, she'll take the iPad with her and have it next to her, because she thinks that if she leaves it in another room, it might turn off and then she'll lose where she was on the game. So you can see that addictiveness, but then we are just as guilty as role models because we're on our phones all the time. Parents are on their phones all the time. It's an addiction, and it's very worrying. I see parents coming out of school with their children trailing behind. They're on their phones and the children are just walking. You know, I'm so pleased that they weren't around when I was a young mum, because I would imagine that I'd be that addicted. I really do. So anyway, there's my take on it.
Well, thank you so much, Vasavi. That's actually absolutely right, because I've also seen it that outside the school gates, the parents are busy with their devices and the children are like all around the place or just trailing behind. So it's the adults who need to change first. Ms. Shilpa Potness, your views. So how are the parents taking it? And they're not ECCA trained. So now what do we do? They have a box. Now what?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree completely with Miss Venti when we say I'm glad we didn't have that when I was a young parent. I'm really glad that didn't happen. But yes, in the current scenario, when I look around, I see parents are getting more and more confused, or initially, at least during the pandemic, they were confused about the choice of app and the choice of that preschool box. And as a parent coach, I had a lot of questions and queries for parents. Which app should we take up and what preschool in a box we should opt for? Earlier, the questions used to be, how do I look for a preschool, and what are the points I should look for when I'm putting my child? And that whole scenario has changed to the box concept. As young parents, yes, they are getting into that rat race, and it has happened. It is obviously going to happen. The pressure is there. My friend's child is using such and such apps and has reached at a particular level cognitively, whereas my child might suffer. So parents have started looking. Obviously, you and I also do that. We look at reviews of apps and reviews of all the things. So parents have started doing that, surprisingly. They look at the reviews and then they say, oh, 100 reviews, all positive. Let me just go ahead and get this app. Somewhere we are forgetting all size don't fit everyone. So we have to be very cautious of this aspect. As a parent, I need to look at this. And the needs of my child are maybe very different from the needs of my friend's child. Needs of me as a parent would be different from the needs of my friend as a parent. So that is what, as a parent, the parent will have to look out for. And that's what I keep telling the parents. You'll have to do your homework in order to understand which app I take. Doesn't matter which company is aggressively marketing it. I have to see which is going to be most appropriate for my child and for my needs as a parent. As far as helping is concerned, these solutions, I have said it earlier, also have limited scope. As I said, SEL doesn't get covered. I mean, these are some aspects we cannot cover in this. So, and no company is ever going to accept that or say that, oh, there are some missing components in our curriculum. Obviously not, for obvious reasons, right? So again, as parents, the homework needs to be done here. Looking at any early years program, looking at the parent role, we have always emphasized as educators that parents' role is extremely important. We all agree to that, along with the educators, right? We have never negated the role of a parent in shaping the child as much as an educator who is there to shape the child during the early years. For me, it's like a potter's wheel where or the child's brain is the clay, and one hand is that of a parent and one hand is that of an educator. Either hand missing will deform the pot in some way. For this, I have a poem which has been with me for a long time, and I don't know who is the poet of this particular poem, but due respect, it's anonymous, so I don't know who it is. I due respect and full credit to the person who has penned this down. So I would like to read it, if I may. Smriti, I have the time, so can I read the poem out? Because
if it's not taking more than 20 seconds, you can.
No, I'll go fast. It'll bring out the essence of the role of a parent and an educator in a child's life. The name of the poem is Unity. I dreamed I stood in a studio and watched two sculptors there. The clay they used was a young child's mind, and they fashioned it with care. One was a teacher. The tools he used were books and music and art. One, a parent with a guiding hand and a gentle, loving heart. Day after day, the teacher toiled with a touch that was deft and sure, while the parent labored by the side and polished and smoothened it over. And when at last their task was done, they were proud of what they had wrought, for the things that they had molded into the child could neither be sold nor bought. Each agreed they would have failed if they had worked alone. And behind the parent stood the school, and behind the teacher, the home. So with that, I would like to end it. The role of the teacher or the educator and the parent together is what we are looking at. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you so much, Ms. Shilpa. Thank you. In fact, all the four panelists that I had, you brought in so much focus onto this preschool in a box topic of ours. Thank you, Ms. Amrit, Mr. TIJAY, Ms. Wendy, and Ms. Shilpa for bringing forth the most important points. Yes, it is convenient. Yes, we do have everything being delivered at our doorstep at the moment. We do see reviews of the apps. In fact, if we are ordering food from one of the delivery apps, we also see the reviews of the restaurants. So we are into reviews nowadays, and which has become a habit. But let it not become a habit for your child's upbringing or education. Like Ms. Shilpa said, one size would not fit all. And we had some topics like SEL being thought about, child-centered approach that Ms. Amrit talked about, that this age children need that. It's very, very important. Ms. Wendy spoke about how we as adults are addicted to apps, which first thing we need to correct ourselves rather than also looking into it for our children. So very importantly, parents are not ECCA trained. Let's all the schools and educators remember that when we send out the preschool in a box, it can just be a substitute, a substitute and also an addition, but never the entire school. So thank you so much, Mr. TIJAY, for sharing what all your school have been doing, and I congratulate you for the wonderful work that you got. 75 to 80% parents agree with you, and they were absolutely being helped out in this crisis moment. Over to you, Ms. SIMRAN, and thank you very much, Dr. Vasavi.
Thank you so much, Smriti, and all the panelists. Sometimes if you look back, hindsight, preschool in a box came in handy because it was something better than nothing. We had something to give to our little ones, and ECE educators packed their expertise in the box and sent it. So it was like, yes, there is a lockdown. We can't do much. We can't reach our children, but here is our expertise. Here are the instructions. Can you please do the needful for us? So while it was there, it was a good idea. We still don't see in sight when the preschools are going to open. So if it has worked for some parents to make these 2 years useful for their children, why not? But thank you, everyone. We had good points. And moving along, I thank our next workshop panelist, Ms. Manjula, for being very patient with us while we were covering this topic. And we were so passionate about covering it. And I welcome Ms. Manjula V, who will be talking about neuroplasticity in the classroom. She's an expert in neuropsychology and education researcher, president and founder trustee of IBBRF. Ms. Manjula, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Simran, for your welcome. It was very good listening to all of you. And today is a day understanding more about, like, I'm thinking from unleashing the power of brain. And brain is something like which is stuck between our 2 ears and which has got infinite powers. And we all understand that we all understand, it's a myth. Like we tell that brain is something which is rigid, and only for a certain level the brain develops, and that is all. There is no changes at all. So here in today's session, I will be walking you all in 3 phases. First, we'll understand about the brain in the general, how the brain develops. Then we'll understand about what is neuroplasticity and who coined the word neuroplasticity. And we'll slightly touch upon the Hebb's rules and Miller's law, and we'll close for the day. Right? So now please allow me to share my screen. And since it's a workshop, I would request you all to take a scribbling pad and take notes of few points. 1 minute. Yes, here we go. And for this session, I will be using the pedagogical challenge mosaic. Okay, so here we go. IBBRF stands for Institute of Brain and Behavior Research Foundation, which is it's a non-profit organization based out of Bangalore, India. So here is this challenge mosaic. As we all know that learning never begins at point A and ends with point B, as I had discussed in the previous sessions. So it's an iterative cycle which begins with a challenge. Then we give a few minutes for the initial thoughts. Then there comes the role of the multiple perspective. Then the introduction to the various resources. Then we give to the 3 important R's, that is reflect, revise thinking, and report out. So this is typically an iterative cycle, the challenge mosaic of pedagogy. So here is a challenge for the day. How does knowledge about neuroplasticity change my teaching? You can make a note. How does knowledge about neuroplasticity change my teaching? Now, here is a video. I request you all to watch this video.
I offered him $200 just to ride this bike 10 feet across the stage. Everybody thought he could do it.
No, you didn't understand. You didn't understand. So, this way. Okay. All right, just a second. All right, so, whenever you're ready. Yeah. Go ahead. No, you have to keep your feet on. All right, here we go. Just give it. Wait. Like, you gotta start rolling at least. And go. Oh, go! All right, back up. Okay, wait. Keep your feet on the pedal. Go. Go right off. Just keep your feet on the pedals. Handles on. Yeah, come on.
Where I work, the welders are geniuses and they like to play jokes on the engineers. He had built a special bicycle and he wanted me to try to ride it. He had only changed one thing. When you turn the handlebar to the left, the wheel goes to the right. When you turn it to the right, the wheel goes to the left. I thought this would be easy, so I hopped on the bike ready to demonstrate how quickly I could conquer this.
And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Destin Sandlin. First attempt riding the bicycle.
So the faster I go, the better.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Look, I know what you're probably thinking. Destin's probably just an uncoordinated engineer and can't do it. But that's not the case at all. The algorithm that's associated with riding a bike in your brain is just that complicated. Think about it. Downwards force on the pedals, leaning your whole body, pulling and pushing the handlebars, gyroscopic precession in the wheels. Every single force is part of this algorithm. And if you change any one part, it affects the entire control system. This bike revealed a very deep truth to me. I had the knowledge of how to operate the bike, but I did not have the understanding. Therefore, knowledge is not understanding. I do not make definitive statements that often, but I'm telling you right now, you cannot ride this bicycle. You might think you can, but you can't. I know this because I'm often asked to speak at universities and conferences, and I take the bike with me. It's always the same. People think they're going to try some trick or they're just going to power through it. It doesn't work. Your brain cannot handle this. So here's what I did. It was a personal challenge. I stayed out here in this driveway and I practiced about 5 minutes every day. My neighbors made fun of me. I had many wrecks, but after 8 months, this happened. One day I couldn't ride the bike and the next day I could. It was like I could feel some kind of pathway in my brain that was now unlocked. It was really weird though. It's like there's this trail in my brain, but if I wasn't paying close enough attention to it, my brain would easily lose that neural path and jump back onto the old road it was more familiar with. Okay, now I'm in Amsterdam, a city that has more bicycles than people. The question is, can I ride a normal bike now? I mean, I've spent all this time unlearning how to ride a bike. If I go back and try to ride a normal one, will my brain mess up? So I've tweeted a Smarter Everyday meetup, if you will, and I'm going to see if somebody brings a bicycle and I'm going to try to ride a normal bike.
It's backwards, it's backwards.
This was one of the most frustrating moments of my life. I had ridden a normal bike since I was 6, but in this moment I couldn't do it anymore. I had set out to prove that I could free my brain from a cognitive bias, but at this point I'm pretty sure that all I proved is that I could only redesignate that bias.
Okay. So here is the time for initial thoughts. Please take your scribbling pad or your device. You can write down your initial thoughts about the challenge given above. No one besides you will have access to your initial thoughts. So here you have 1 minute time. Last 20 seconds. All right, time up. Okay, so now let's understand about brain development. So when we talk about the word development, it's not about the size, but it's all about the forming connections. And we all know that we all are billionaires. Do you all agree with me? Yes, we are the owners of 100 billion neurons. And here it is not just owning the neurons and how well we create the synaptic connection between the neurons. And we are all born with more neurons, actually what we need. And in our brain, at 2 critical periods, these brain cells get pruned away. And the neurons which are in use, it gets connected and it forms the network. The neurons which are not in use, they get retract or they die. It's just as simple as you use it or you lose it. In this way, there are important relations between the brain development and the environment where we live in. Environment, when we call it in the neuroscience perspective, we call it as epigenetics. So the brain the development and the epigenetics plays very important role. So here, let's see from the fetal brain development growth, right from 25th day, when the conception takes place, until the 9 months, the baby grows. So here you could see the brain of the child, which is in a tube-like structure, basically the telencephalon, mesencephalon, and metencephalon and myelencephalon. Then as the days goes, you could see how the changes have taken place. And by the age, the 9-month-old baby, you could see lots of ridges and valleys and the rough-like structure what you see in this brain. That's very simple. The top layer of the brain, the cortex, which is the tissues, which are more in number. Since we have a very limited space in our brain because of the skull, it gets more folds and folds in the brain. That we call it as gyrus and sulcus. So what are the major brain changes? What are the changes we could see in our brain? One is in the form of proliferation of dendritic branches. Second one is pruning. And third one is myelination, or proliferation of dendritic branches, myelination, and pruning. So what is proliferation? So here I would like to show you this. There's a feather. Let's assume this is a neuron. So here there is a cell body, the neuron, with lots of dendritic branches. These are all, we could call it as a dendrites. So when there is a huge networks of dendrites, we call it as a proliferation. So here is a tree, and you could see lots of branches. That's proliferation of the dendritic branches, where you could see lots of sprouts. Next comes the myelination. So here, this is a neuron, and this is a cell body. These are the dendrites, and this is a long tail called axon. So this axon, you have a insulin kind of structure which covers the axon. We call it as myelination, a very important aspect for where it's very important thing for the action potentiation. Next comes the pruning. So pruning is again like when you have these dendritic branches, when there are certain dendritic branches, when it gets teared away, we call it as pruning, right? So here, let's see how the synaptic connections takes place. Here is a picture of a newborn baby, where you could see quite a number of neurons and the long tail axons, but hardly you could see any connections over here. Again, when the child moves to 1 month old, here you could see a little bit of interaction taking place. Then again, when the child is in the 9-month stage, you could see there is a kind of a dense network forming. Then in the 2-year-old, it's pretty dense network. It's unimaginable. And then the adults. So as the child moves from 2 year to an adult, here you could see lots of pruning has also taken place. What we require, we retain it. What we don't require, it gets pruned away. So here is an MRI scan. Here I'm typically, let's focus on the gray matters and the white matter. So here let's focus on the gray matter, which is the thinning of the gray matter. So here's an MRI scan of a 7-year-old child, and here's an MRI scan of 30-year-old adult. So here you could see the 7-year-old child, you could see the gray matter, which is very thick. And as we grow old, the gray matter gets thin, right? The white matter is thickened, whereas the gray matter is thin. Next, here you could see here is a statistical reference. As we grow older, the 5-year age to the 10-year age, you could see the brighter colors are the thick cortex. As we grow older, you could see the thinner cortex. Again, here our focus should be on the myelination. Here, the child is born, it's a 1-week child. Then in 3 months, 1 year, and 2 years. In the beginning of the first week, you could see the brain MRI is pretty dark in color. As we grow old, you could see the lighter version of the brain. It's very important because the gray matter has been thin, and you could see lots of myelination has taken place in the neuronal structures. So from then, like I was telling about what is myelination. So here is a infographic representation of a neuron. This is a neuron, one single cell. This is a cell body, and these are the dendritic branches. This is a long tail called axon, and the covering, what you see, these coverings are called myelin sheet, myelination. These myelination is very important, and the gap between the myelination, we call it as nodes of Ranvier. So here, typically, you could see here, this is a myelinated neuron. You could see the action potentiation moving from a cell body to the tail of the axon. You could see how quick the action potentiation moved from one end to another end. Whereas this is a neuron where it's an unmyelinated cell, where you could see the action potentiation, which it hardly reached the tail of the axon. Eventually, it got disappear in between. So hence, myelination is very important, right? So here you could see this is how the myelination takes place. Here, let's now focus on our white matter. So here, in last 3 slides, we saw about the gray matter. Here, in further, we are looking at the white matters. So here, the first week of the baby's brain, you could see the darker in nature. As we grow older, it's brighter. So here, the white patches, what you could see in this, the red color light or the red patches, these are the places where the first myelination has taken place, or the white matter can be seen over here. So typically in the center, what you could see here, it's like as soon as the baby is born, you could see the baby, first thing it wants to see his mother, it wants to suck mother milk. So most of the motor skills, the motor areas are being myelinated in the beginning. As the baby grows older, you could see the entire brain has got myelinated. So here, typically, this is a white matter growth. So here again, there is an MRI scan of a 7-year-old child and a 30-year-old adult. Let's focus on the white matter. So in the beginning, you could see the thin patches of white matter is in a very small size. Whereas as we grow older, you could see the larger patches of white matter. It shows that there is a physical development of the brain, how the brain has changed from the white matter, from the gray matter to the white matter. And here, one more very important, this is a sagittal view of the brain. And here you could see this is the portion, what we call it as a corpus callosum, which interacts between the left hemisphere and right hemisphere. So here, when the child is of 7-year-old, you could see the corpus callosum is very thin. It's a bundle of nerves, all right? So this bundle of nerves, you could see a very limited bundle of nerves, but as we grow older, here you could see there is a very thicker corpus callosum, which is eventually interacting with both the hemispheres of the brain. And here, this is how the white matters communicate with the different parts of the brain. You could see here. And here again, you could see these are the different white matter tracts, which are white. These are in different colors, the blue, green, and red. This basically indicates the different directions of the brain. In the infant, you could see the white matter tracts are very limited, but as we grow, there is a dense white matter tracts. All right. So this was a very generic development of the child's brain. And here are some of the quick facts of the child, our brain. The brain weighs around 3 pounds, and it comprises of around 60% of fat and one of the fattest organ in the human body. The human brain has a capacity to generate approximately 23 watts of power when awake. Of the total blood and oxygen that is produced in our body, the brain gets of 20% of it. When the blood supplies to the brain stops, it is almost after 8 to 10 seconds that the brain starts losing the consciousness. The brain is capable of surviving for 5 to 6 minutes only if it does not get oxygen, after which it dies. The blood vessels that are present in the brain are almost 1 lakh miles in length, and there are 100 billion neurons present in the brain. And in early pregnancy, the neurons develop at the alarming rate of 250,000 per minute. So now let's understand about how the brain changes and how does it adapts in our everyday lives. And brain, the changes in brain, it's not just helps us to survive but the brain help us to thrive in our lives. So now, when we understand about the word neuroplasticity, there are basically two words hidden in it. One is neuro and other one is plasticity. Neuro stands for the nervous system, and the plasticity, which refers to moldable, which can always be changed. So this was the first, the word neuroplasticity was first introduced by Ernesto Lugaro in 1906, and he describes neuroplasticity in three important words. One is, it has the ability to adapt to any situation, it has the ability to learn, and it has the ability to recover. So adapt, learn, and recover are the three mantras for the neuroplasticity. So let's understand what is neuroplasticity. So it is the brain's ability to change, remodel, and reorganize for the purpose, for the better ability to adapt to a new situation. So before diving into understand more about neuroplasticity, let me explain about one of the very important experiments done by Dr. Marianne Diamond. She's a neuroscientist and a celebrity. She is the one doctor who worked, she did lots of research on Albert Einstein's brain. So this is Albert Einstein and Marianne Diamond who worked on his brain. Then she got the celebrity status. So here she did an experiment with rats. She created three environments. One was standard environment, second one is impoverished environment, and third one is enriched environment. After 80 days of her experiment, she could realize that when she did the brain scan, like there was a very limited networks of neuronal networks in the impoverished environment or even in a standard environment when compared to the rats which were in enriched environment. So findings of our experiment was the rats in the stimulated environment had increased in the thickness of the cerebral cortex. And the frontal lobe, the thinking, planning, and decision making, especially this portion of the brain, was heavier when compared to the rats which were in the standard environment or impoverished environment. So here with this scenario, I'm not suggesting the educators to dump more and more toys and more the toys or the maze-like structures what in the picture they have shown. When we relate this situation to a classroom, we never suggest to fill the class with more and more colors, more and more toys. It's if you put more and more things, it's like it may create occipital pollution or it may create lots of confusion to the child. So whatever you do, whatever we plan the structure in the classroom, it should be well planned and it should reach the child. It should solve all the problems what the child comes up with the various questions. So then, like there is a documentary done on Dr. Marianne Diamond, My Love Affair with the Brain. She basically worked on the concept of neuroplasticity, and she told that in order to understand more about neuroplasticity, or you want to change the brain the way you want, you need to understand the 5 major goals. That is, focus on the diet. Definitely diet plays an important role in the changes in the brain what we can experience. Maybe one afternoon you had a heavy diet, like lots of oily stuffs and lots of fatty items. You feel very lousy and you want to sleep and you want to be to yourself. You almost go to the comfort zone, right? Or if you don't eat at all, again that you might land up in having headache or malnutrition and so on. So having just right diet is very essential for the child's brain development and even for us. Second one is very important, that is exercise. Exercise is very important, where like exercise helps in neurogenesis, the concept of neurogenesis. Like for example, it helps in generating more and more BDNF in your brain. BDNF stands for brain derived neurotrophic factors. Next, third one is challenge. Always teach or present the concepts in the form of a challenge rather than just giving it as various like learn some rhymes, learn some stories, or learn some concepts and so on. Put the same concept in the form of a challenge, then the brain loves challenges. And always bring novelties in your classrooms, or the novelties or the newness in the classroom. And at last, whatever you do, do it with passion and love. Then definitely you could see the neuroplasticity in your brain. So now let's understand about neuroplasticity. There are two types. One is the structural changes. Second one is functional changes. Structural changes, like especially the experience or the memories, change the brain physical structures. And whereas in the functional changes, the brain functions more from damaged area to undamaged area. So now let me share some couple of testimonials for neuroplasticity. So here is, just pay attention to the picture, what I show here.
Yeah, in general stand here.
May I proceed? All right. So here is an image of a sagittal view. Here you could see the cerebrum. Here you could see the corpus callosum and the midbrain. And here you could see the brainstem. And here you could see the cerebellum. So this is basically a general brain structure, what we all are saying, maybe my brain or your brain and so on. And now here is an MRI scan of an other brain. So what change do you see here? Is there any change? Is it okay? So here you could see a black patch. So this black patch is cerebellum. So in brain, we have the three major parts. One is the major portion, we call it as the cerebrum. Then you have cerebellum, then brainstem. And this cerebellum is very important, which is a house of 50% of neurons. And also it's very important for your balancing, coordination, and even some aspects of emotions and so on. So now let's understand, what is this testimonial all about? So here is a woman who is born with a hole in her brain. So here is a Chinese woman who is admitted in a Chinese hospital. And here, like, she just goes to the doctor telling that, sir, I cannot just walk steadily. And she had some problem like dizziness and nausea and so on. And doctors did a CAT scan, and then they realized, it was all surprised, that here is a lady who was born without cerebellum, but still she could lead a normal life like any one of us. She married, she led a beautiful life, and she delivered babies and so on, but still she didn't have cerebellum. This itself showed that the absence of cerebellum, the other parts of the brain took over the functions of cerebellum. That itself shows the power of neuroplasticity. So here is another testimonial where there is a lady, again with certain procedures, half of her brain was removed, but still she could lead a normal life. Isn't it surprising how the brain works? It's not the machine which helps you to survive, but it helps you to thrive in your life. So here, before going to the next slide, I would like to do one small experiment over here. Please pull your hands in the front, and in left hand, you need to draw a triangle, and in right hand, you need to draw a circle. And you should do parallelly. Triangle, circle, parallelly you need to do. Is it easy? It's very difficult. Probably after 10-15 minutes of time of your practice, definitely it's easy to draw the triangle and also draw the circle at the same time. This is called as bilateral activities. So when we start doing bring lots of bilateral activities or touching the other sides, like left side and the right sides of the body, it helps your corpus callosum to interact both the parts of the brain. And that's where the magic happens in the classroom. So in between, when you start introducing the brain breaks in the classroom, that's where like there is the blood flow in your from last 1 hour we are sitting, right? So what has happened? All your blood, like you can experience, it might be in your thigh. So once you just stand up with lots of energy, what happens? Again, there is a gush of blood in your brain, and brain requires the blood and oxygen and various nutrients, right? The brain breaks and the bilateral activities and so on are very important in the classroom. So here, previously, there were various myths. We all believed that the brain is rigid and plasticity is limited only to hippocampus, and plasticity is limited to just the development or during the childhood days. There are so many case studies where even at the certain level, they could read, write, learn. And there was one of my friend, like who was around 40-45 years of age. He was mad of learning guitar, and he didn't know how to hold the guitar. But after the practice of 5 to 7 months, he started playing a beautiful music on guitar. So it's all about the plasticity and the practice. So after understanding the principles of neuroplasticity, let's not label any child. It's a very common tendency to the parents and educators. Oh, that child doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything. He's just like that. He never changes. It's all myth. So whenever we start giving the right interaction and right intervention to the children, definitely the power of neuroplasticity comes into the picture. It's all about the focus and attention and practice, practice, and practice. So next comes my hero, that is Dr. Donald Hebb, where he wrote one of the book called Organizational Behavior, where he introduced the 3 postulates. One is the synapses, the cell assembly, and the phase sequence. So where the first Hebb rule, he told that when an axon of a cell A is near enough to excite a cell B and repeatedly or persistently take part in firing it, some growth process or metabolic change takes place in one or both the cells. A's efficiency as one of the cells firing, B is increased. So like this, the Hebb's came up with the 3 postulates. What he essentially tells that when both the neurons fire together, then definitely it will wire together, right? When 2 neurons fire together, it will definitely wire together. So let me give you with an example. This is one neuron. So here, this neuron has received the action potentiation, and this neuron has to pass the message to the next neuron, right? And if the action potentiation, what we have given, if it's strong enough, then it releases lots of various other chemicals, and then here again the way other gates opens and it receives the information, right? If the action potentiation is not strong enough, definitely the number of the chemicals what it's passing from one neuron to other neuron would be very limited, and then in that case there would be an error in encoding. If there is an error in encoding, definitely the child cannot decode the certain learned concept, right? So now the question comes, how do we enhance the neuroplasticity? How do we enhance it? As I already mentioned in the Marian Diamond slide, 5 important things is diet, exercise, and sleep, challenge, and novelty. So here, again, let me emphasize more on the sleep and exercise, which is a very essential part of our life. So from the neuroplasticity perspective, to enhance the neuroplasticity, let's follow certain sleep hygiene as well. So always let's set a schedule. Let's exercise, avoid caffeine, nicotine, or alcohol, relax before bed, and develop preschool rituals, and sleep until sunlight. Don't lie in bed awake If you can't fall asleep, leave the room and do a quiet activity until you feel tired. Keep your bedroom dark, quiet, and little cool. Avoid using bed for other activities than sleeping or intimacy. See a doctor if your sleeping problem continues. So these are a small basic sleep hygiene where we need to follow in our lives. In order to know more about neuroplasticity and sleep, here is a very important work called Why We Sleep, written by Matthew Walker, and the other book, Nocturnal Brain, written by Guy. And next important one is neuroplasticity and the physical exercises. So let me tell you. So here again, exercises increases the neuronal collections. Exercise strengthens the cerebellum and the corpus callosum, and it fuels the brain with oxygen, increases the levels of neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, norepinephrine, and brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that is BDNF, and it increases the neurogenesis in hippocampus. And hippocampus is very important for memory as well. So for understand more about neuroplasticity and the physical exercises, here are some good reads. Spark, written by John Ratty, and Healthy Brain and Happy Life, written by Wendy Suzuki. So with this, I would like to close the session with the understanding about the 3 shifts in our dimensions, 3 paradigm shift. As a 21st century educators, we need to understand about, as an educators, we need to be expertise in our field, and we need to have motivation, and we need to have a certain kind of mindsets. What kind of mindset, what kind of motivation, and what kind of expertise? So here, let's move from fixed mindset to growth mindset. Let's move from routine expertise to adaptive expertise, and let's move from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation. These are the small educators, the dots, I assume it as educators. We are moving from this point to this point to meet and to cater the 21st century learners. So now it's time for reflection. Please take your paper and write down the 3 important questions. Here are the 3 questions. What was surprising in the session? What did you know, but now you're seeing in a new way? And what further help you need? So these are the 3 scaffolding questions. Question number 1 is, what was surprising? What did you know, but now see in a new way? And what further help you need? Your time starts now. It's actually a 4-hour session. I just made an attempt to squeeze in as much as possible, and I made it however, like I made just, it's speaking in precise, it's very difficult. The questions, the what was surprising, what did you know, but now see in a new way, and what further help you need? Okay, if you're done, I would love to hear from you all. What was surprising in the session? Hey, Wendy, thank you so much. Please.
I was really surprised by the first activity with the gentleman on the bike, because I thought, first of all, oh, I could do that. I'm a bike rider. That's easy.
Absolutely.
But it can't be easy because your brain is just not built that way. And I was wondering if I could ask a question. Do you think that that's a right brain, left brain thing?
Here, I'm not specifying with reference to right brain or left brain. Again, I tell that brain work as a whole, right? The brain, every part of the brain interacts with each other. So here, let's not demarcate with the left brain and right brain. It's just going with the routine stuff. And in case if we just bring a small change in our lives, it would be slightly, we might feel that imbalance over there. So in order to bring in any new thing, it's all about focus, attention, practice, practice, and practice. Once you start practicing, definitely your brain will form the networks. It'll start myelinating the new knowledge or new experience, and it'll be just easy. Maybe first time when you're cruising into a big dense jungle or a forest, it would be very difficult. After a certain while, what happens? You create a footpath, right? So it would be very, next time when traveling, it would be easy. It's just like that.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. I loved it.
Thank you.
So a couple of surprising things for me, Miss Manjula. Of course, the bike thing, it was like when they said that $200 for to ride the bike, I said, easy. So, but then it was not that easy. Secondly, the bilateral thing of drawing the triangle and the circle side by side, again, not easy. Sounded very easy. And third was your case studies. The women with, the faults in their brains, but leading a normal life. Neuroplasticity, how the whole brain approach that you said. That one thing can actually, help the other in continuing with the normal life, which was actually, again, a bit surprising thing for me. So these were a couple of surprises during the session. Of course, loved the presentation, and there was a lot of knowledge that we gained out of it. What we already knew when it was got refreshed was the parts of the brains and how important these parts of the brains are. And of course, hippocampus being so important for memories and how to build memories. And exercising, yes, we all know how important that is for the entire body and specifically for the brain. Though I don't exercise and I feel very guilty. So I think
we only do resolutions in the beginning of the year. Hey,
my
2022, I'll do
comes.
exercise, but only for 1 week.
Absolutely. No, my Monday doesn't come. I always feel that, after this, the next Monday I'm starting, but I don't start, which I feel very guilty about. So another learning and take away from it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Smriti. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much, participants. And Manjula, it was an excellent session. One takeaway for me is that I need to not sleep while watching Netflix. So thanks a lot. And for other questions and answers, I request the participants to please put it on the group. And Manjula, you were so amazing to pack it in time. And yet you were not like, you were not speeding away. So that was the best thing, right? So I thought we should give you a very nice
Actually, I have cut short many slides from this original presentation. For on 25th onwards, we are having the detailed course on neuroscience and human cognition. And I request Vasavi ma'am to help us. And it's a wonderful session. Neuroscience is one thing which will really help all the educators and the learners to unleash their complete potential of the human brain.
Thank you once again, Manjula. And thanks to all the participants, panelists, the audience. We are growing. In fact, when we are coming towards the end of the show, we see that participants are less. But in fact, while we are progressing on the show, with time, we have more and more participants. And that's so, so heartening. So moving along to the next segment, and I once again thank you, Manjula, for your time.
Thank you so much.
And a wonderful workshop. Moving along, please remember that we have day 2, which is tomorrow, and we have very nice workshops, interesting workshop on organic storytelling. Then we have whole language approach. Also, we would invite all our awardees to share their experiences tomorrow, though we are announcing awards today and tomorrow, but all the participants are welcome to come join tomorrow and talk about how they felt about this whole event and how was their experience of winning the awards. So do join us tomorrow again at the same time, which is 4 p.m. IST, which is Indian Standard Time. And now, last but not the least, let's put our hands together for our awardees, and a very well-deserved ones. These are special because we are still into this corona lockdowns and new normals, and this signifies your success. And we congratulate each one of you. I will take a minute to share my screen and announce the awards. And meanwhile, this is a round of applause for each one of you. So put your hands together for ECDF Pinnacle Education Awards 2021. This is our third edition, a very beautiful way to celebrate our anniversary. And if you're joining us just now, we are on day one of our ED Ahead and Pinnacle Awards. We have an event tomorrow also. And it is my pleasure and honor to announce these awards. So ECDF Pinnacle Education Awards 2021. And this category is for organizational awards. And let's see the recipients. Category is Best Preschool Chain India. And it is the Crayon School, Noida, represented by Moshmi Sinha. A big round of applause, ma'am. Best Preschool Chain in India. The next one is Oxford Grammar School. Oxford Grammar School, Hyderabad, represented by Fatima Kazim Hussain. A big round of applause. Best Preschool Chain India, Oxford Grammar School. And the next category is Best Franchised Preschool India. And the award goes to Little Einsteins Guwahati, represented by Darshana Barahu Thomas. A big round of applause, ma'am. And the next one is for Best Franchised Preschool India, Tender Petals, Nurturing the Unique Journey. And this is Zoo Narangi Road Center, Guwahati, represented by Mithu Monidas. And the next category is Best Standalone Preschool Chain in India. Best Standalone Preschool in India. And goes to Genius Tots Preschool, Nasik, Maharashtra, represented by Dr. Anupama Dhale. Congratulations to you, ma'am. Next in the same Best Standalone Preschool India is Vedic Lore Preschool, Bangalore, represented by Ishwarya Iyer. And the next one in the same category is Pine Hall School, Saharanpur, UP, represented by Vibha Scott, Headmistress. Congratulations, ma'am. And the next one again in the same category is for Kidsland Pre-Primary School, Navi Mumbai, represented by Malaika Khan. And next, moving on to the next category is Best Online Early Childhood Education Portal. And let's see the awardees. We Are Angels Beginners World, Kerala, represented by Rina Ellen Thomas. Big congratulations. The next one is Best Innovation in Early Learning and Child Development, India. And the awardee is Delhi World Public School, Ajmer, Rajasthan. And the representation is Kamudi Pant, Headmistress. The next one is individual award categories. And let's see the recipients. And the category is for Most Inspiring Women Leader in Education Sector, India. Wow. And this is our own SMIRTI Agarwal, Content Lead, AMPERSAND Group, Mumbai. Big congratulations to you, SMIRTI. The next one, Most Inspiring Woman Leader in Education Sector, India, is Surabhi B. Das, Content Creator, Parenting Wings, Guwahati, Assam. And the next one is Dr. Zarina Sultana, Hyderabad, Most Inspiring Woman Leader in Education Sector, India. Big congratulations. And next category is Outstanding Woman Educationist, India. And that is Meenakshi Mehra, Principal, Sri Chaitanya Techno School, Chennai. The next one in the same category, Outstanding Woman Educationist, is Shailaja Seth, Academic Coordination, Mangalam, Vidya Niketan, Kolkata. And the next one in the same category is Ms. Arpita Bhatti, Educator, Jodhpur, Rajasthan. a big, 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 big congratulations to all the awardees. And please remember, there is more to come, which will be coming to you tomorrow live. And we look forward to seeing you, each one of you and more tomorrow at the same time. And this is SIMRAN Ballani signing off for today's event. Thank you, Dr. Vasavi. And thank you everyone who spoke, who participated, who cheered us up. And you have a good evening and take care of yourselves, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Join us tomorrow for the rest of the awards and for 2 very interesting workshops that are lined up for tomorrow. Thank you so much. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.